Welcome back to the Messianic Hour. I'm your host, Rabbi Scott. The show is dedicated to reaching the lost and educating the found. I want to encourage you to go to our website, rabbiscott.com, sign up for our newsletter, check out all the different information we have there. You can download your apps for your iPhone, iTouch, iPad, and you can get our radio show and our services, BethAdonai.com as well, right there on your phone. So check that out. We live stream all of our services. We also archive and live stream the events, and then we also have our radio show, so check that out right there online.
And what we want to talk about and try to put it a little bit into perspective for you, which will help with the teaching that we just did this week and the one for next week also, is what is Havdalah?
Right.
And the word Havdalah means to differentiate, to distinguish, to separate. So this is again, as we've talked about, a lot of things in Judaism is show and tell. So this whole ceremony, the purpose of this ceremony is to distinguish between the Shabbat that you've just experienced and the week that you're about to enter. Both, so here's your separation between the two.
We've start Shabbat with the lighting of the candles, which is, by the way, it's a Jewish tradition. It's not. It's interesting when you light the candles, the blessing is that the Lord commanded us to kindle the lights of Shabbat. That's the traditional Jewish blessing. Although nowhere in Scripture does He command us to kindle it, but what He's saying is we're not allowed to light the fire during it, so you have to do it beforehand so that you can keep that fire burning throughout the Shabbat. And then we end it with, again, the putting out of that candle, of the light of Shabbat, and so it's a really beautiful picture that it's completely set apart, beginning and end.
So if you're wondering what you need for Shabbat, for Havdalah, you need a double wicked candle. If you Google it online, you'll actually see multi-wick braided candles, a cup of wine or grape juice, spices, cloves work really well, cloves or cinnamon, and then, a plate or something because you're going to be dripping your candle on it.
You can actually go to our web store, the Messianic Marketplace, and we actually have Havdalah sets where you can purchase. We normally don't promote like that, but that's something that we do have at our gift set, so it's a great idea if you want to go ahead and get one pre-made, or you can make one yourself.
Mm-hmm. And just as we said, Shabbat's going to end when you see 3 medium-sized stars visible in the sky, and then once you see that, your Shabbat's ended, so you want to start your Havdalah service. And during Havdalah, you're going to say 3 blessings. You're going to say, the first one is the blessing over the wine. And we know that wine is a symbol of joy. And in Judaism, it kind of teaches us to transform the physical into the spiritual. And just as simple grapes are taken and transformed into wine, so too we're going to take the pleasure of this spiritual renewal that we've experienced over Shabbat and continue it and grow it into this following week, into the upcoming week. The next thing we have is the blessing over the spices. And what we want to do with this is, we know Shabbat is an island of time. There's a sweetness associated with Shabbat. So what we want to do is we want to take those spices and we want to smell them, and you pass them around to everybody, right, so that you're continuing that smell, that sweetness of Shabbat will linger throughout this week. And then you're going to say the blessing over the flame. And the Havdalah candle really kind of represents that first light of creation, new beginning. We want to take that light of creation, the light of Shabbat, and we know that Messiah is the light of the world, so we want to take that light that we have experienced during Shabbat and let that light continue to shine throughout this week. We also know that Messiah, light of the world, lives within us. We are to be a light. So it just kind of reinforces for us as believers that we need to be a light. Don't let the cares of the world extinguish your light. Keep your light shining and keep your light going forward. And really, I think one of the most important things is that it puts that bookmark to Shabbat. It sets it apart. You've had this time of services, fellowship, Torah study, and instead of just kind of going, okay, we're done, and jump into your week, this is that last pause.
Right.
It's a pause that lets you kind of close out Shabbat for yourself and then start your work week.
But you're closing out, but you're also not really wanting it to end. One of the beautiful things that you're talking about is when we close it out is you take the candle and you actually extinguish it into the wine, and it actually puts off a very unique aroma to have it that sense of Shabbat should not end. Just because you're leaving, just because Shabbat's over, you should leave its presence is the idea.
And what I think it is Shabbat is on a different plane. They say that we have a special soul that comes to us during Shabbat.
Right.
And that,
we're going to talk about more of that next week as well, but you can hit it right now.
And
too.
that, Havdalah, when Shabbat ends, that soul departs. And Havdalah is there to kind of mark that also. But it just is there to remind us that don't rush. Enjoy your Shabbat and then close out your Shabbat.
Judy, one thing I love when we go to Israel, I always love showing people the steps that lead up to any temple, particularly the temple, but even in the congregations where you would go to. And the steps are always uneven. They're different heights. They're different widths. And I ask people, why do they think this is the way? Do they think it was just by accident they made it this way? And when I tell them they did this on purpose so that you would not rush up to the service. How many people, you're running late to go to service and you're rushing in? That's not the attitude you're supposed to go in with. It's a very peaceful time coming into the understanding of Shabbat.
Well, the greatest tool that we have for appreciating anything is the ability to kind of distinguish and differentiate. We can see things as rare and unique and special, just as we can see Shabbat, or we can just see it as ordinary. So we can view Shabbat as just another day, or we can view Shabbat as something special and something different and something that needs to be differentiated. In our house with our daughter, she'll want to watch a video or whatever. And I'm like, honey, this is Shabbat. We need to treat this day as something special. We need to treat this day as something different.
And Judy, too, you mentioned that Shabbat was never changed in the scripture. He said, in 6 days I made the heavens and the earth. The seventh day I rested. He didn't say, but you can change it to another day of the week, or if that day doesn't work for you, choose which one does. No, this is God's appointed times, not Kim's or Sue's or Bill's or Joe's or whoever's appointed time. This is God's time of saying, this is when I'm telling you to rest. 6 days you labor, the seventh day you rest. I created the world in 6 days. The seventh day, the Shabbat, is when we rest. It's interesting, Judy. We know in Scripture, when it talks about people, the days of the week, it's first day of the week, second day of the week, and so on, except for Shabbat. It's always signified as Shabbat. In the calendar that we use today, the names Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday actually deal with different gods from the Greeks, except for the word Saturday. And when you translate, I love it, when you translate Sabbath into Saturday into Spanish, it's Shabuot. It's still that Sabbath, that reference of it. And so that's really kind of neat.
Well, and I just want to jump back into Acts 20 real quick.
Yeah.
Because Luke records these events in the book of Acts in reference to Shabbat and festivals.
Right.
Things happen from one Shabbat to the other, from one festival to another. So we've got to be aware of that, and we can't put another layer of time over that. So when he speaks of believers meeting, we've got to look at that in the custom, in the time, and understand what it meant, not looking at it from a Sunday worldview or a 21st century worldview. We've got to take it back into the Jewish culture to really understand it.
Because and back to that time period.
If it was that important from Shabbat to Shabbat, from festival to festival, then we've got to be aware of that time frame too.
That's right. Judy, we have a great show. I want to encourage you to go to our website, rabbiscott.com. Again, we are a listener-supported show. You can support us right there online. Plant a tree in Israel. What a great way to bless this ministry and bless the land. You get a beautiful certificate. Sign up for our newsletter. Check out our archives on our website as well. Again, rabbiscott.com for more information. Check it out. Go tell your friends as well. Check out the YouTube videos
Watch
as well.
those YouTube videos.
You have a question, mail to it at mail@rabbiscott.com. We'll be answering them on the YouTubes Until next week, this is Rabbi Scott
and Judy
saying shalom and pray for the peace of Jerusalem.